Yo, Weekend Gabe here, holding down your Friday night at Weekend at Gabe's. Thanks for tuning in, checking us out here on Twitch. Don't forget to give us a follow on the social medias at Weekend Gabe across all platforms. Give us a follow, give us a shout. Coming up tonight. First off, I want to first acknowledge that friend of the show, a friend of mine in real life, Slot A, super producer, just dropped his Traffic Volume 1, which you're hearing in the background. So please go support, especially on Bandcamp, independent artists who are putting in work. And go support him. And I got to buy the album, buy the mixtape. So I'm going to go do that. You should too as well. Big show coming up tonight. Rich Jones and Montana Macks is going to be joining us as they talk about their new album, How Do You Sleep at Night, that just dropped in late October. And then we are going to then talk with director, producer, everything in between can be. He has a new album out as well that we're going to get into, titled Summer in September, which is fantastic because that's my birthday, so I'm really excited that he's going to be joining us. So it's a big show coming up tonight. So let's get into some news that I only care about. Wait, let me get my graphic together because I'm producing this. But of course, you know, when you're DIY, this is what happens. First off, shout out to Michael Puente over at Lakeside Radio in Indiana. I was on the show tonight or this morning talking about Indiana's own Freddie Gibbs, as you know, he's up for a Grammy. So we were talking a little bit about his relationship to just the Grammys and also his chances at winning. And I told him that I didn't think that he had a really good chance of winning. And not because that Alfredo's a terrible record, but just because I think Nas is going to win. Because, you know, it's time that Nas gets a Grammy. So that's what I think. But I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. Let's see what's going on. So it looks like the Selena show premiered on Netflix overnight, and people are just absolutely ecstatic about the show. I'm gonna have to give it a watch later on this weekend, and I don't know if they got all the episodes up or they're just gonna slowly leak them out. But either way, I'm probably gonna plow through that along with The Mandalorian. If you haven't been watching The Mandalorian, I don't know what you're doing, but you're not doing it right. Your TV privileges should be removed if you're not watching The Mandalorian. And then what else is going on? The NBA season is going to be kicking off in a couple weeks, and they've already had like 70 players that are on that tested positive for COVID. So that's terrible, right? And but you know, I'm still gonna watch though because I love basketball. So it's not even like something that is discouraging me from watching. But I just feel bad for people who get the germ in general. The other big news today in entertainment was that AMC is gonna be, you know, looking to get people to come to the theater once we get back into the real world. Because Warner Brothers announced that they're moving all their new films, to HBO Max, but also they're going to release them simultaneously with the theaters. So if you have an HBO Max account, you might be inclined to just go see it, watch it at home, or spend $50 to see it at the theater with concessions. It's going to be interesting to see how people respond to live entertainment. I'm on the side of thinking that people are going to race back because people have been in the home for so long that they're going to be excited to come back into the theater, no matter how big or how long or how much it costs. So, but I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. Looks like the Black Eyed Peas is going to feature an album with Latino artists Shakira and J Balvin. The only thing about J Balvin I know is that he has a McDonald's meal that I refuse to purchase for my son. That's why I'm gonna leave it at that. But shout out to the Black Eyed Peas and the Will I Am, a real historical hip hop figure. Speaking of historical hip hop, if you tune in tomorrow, Saturday, on Vocal 91.1 FM, if you didn't know, I'm the senior hip hop correspondent there. And I did a sort of a hip hop time capsule for 1995. So 25 years. We're wrapping up 2020, but 1995 obviously was a huge historical year for hip hop in general. I mean, you're talking about These That Were Die, The Shine, and all the Wu-Tang records, just Raekwon, Dirty Bastard. You're talking about LL Cool J coming back and having a type of year with Hey Lover and Loungin'. Then you're talking about Mac 10 from the West Coast, which I'm a huge fan of. Him and his debut album, the Death Row sound was still rolling with Dog Pound. Temples of Boom came out. Coolio, Gangsta's Paradise came out that year. And we're not even talking about the Down South, Diddy Mob's Soul Food, and 8-Ball MJG on Top of the World with Space Age Pimpin'. 1995 was a phenomenal year in hip hop. And I'm not even talking about the Far Side and Big L. Just the enormous amount of hip hop records in 1995 that came out just that year entirely special. So tomorrow at 2 o'clock, around 2 o'clock, if you tune in to Vocal at 91.1 FM, you'll hear my time capsule review. Start digging into our favorites of 2020. We got Rich in the green space, but do we want to wait for Macks? Yeah. So we're gonna do that. But yeah, so tune in to Vocal 91.1 FM Friday at 2 o'clock, and then around the same time on Mondays, I try to talk about new releases that are coming out. So whatever dropped this Friday, we'll get into that on Monday on Vocal 91.1 FM. All right, joining us now here on Weekend at Gabe's, friends of the show, Rich Jones, Montana Macks. They have the new album titled "How Do You Sleep at Night." It's phenomenal. It's definitely something that you need to put into your listening space. And I'm so happy that they're here with us here on Games. How are you fellas doing tonight?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great, Rich.
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. You're great.
Woo! Microphone.
All right.
I had a guest on Monday and we couldn't hear him, and then he ended my phone. So I'm glad everything's working out. Turn up pieces.
Everything's turning up, Millhouse.
Exactly. But how's everyone doing? You guys have the new record out. How do you sleep at night? I was telling Rich that I'm just like enamored and just love the sound and feel of the record. There's a lot of emotion behind it, and Rich just and sort of the liner notes on the Bandcamp page. So we'll get into all that in just a second. But it's just a great feel record that has a lot of emotion and a lot of love in there. And so I really enjoyed listening to it. So congratulations, guys.
Thank you very much.
You kind of mentioned, Rich, that like this year, as we all know, that it's just been really hard for everyone, but especially you've been just thinking about a lot of things, and that's what kind of like helped pull this record together. The either just the selfishness, the either violence or law enforcement, and that sort of aggressiveness that there's no sort of the aggressiveness that we saw this year. Right. Let me self-correct myself. Weighed on you a lot as far as the writing process goes, and then Macks ended up sending you 16 hours of production to through.
It was a lot. But here's the best part: he could have sent me 32 hours of material, and that would have been just as good, if only because at that part of the quarantine, I literally wasn't doing anything. So it was great. I literally just I wasn't in a headspace to write or do anything proactive with music anyway. So I just wanted to listen to good shit, and Macks makes really good shit. So it was perfect. It wasn't like a laborious sort of thing, because it was just like, okay, so I just get to listen to all the stuff my friends made over the last 10 plus years. Most of it's really, really good. Most of it's quite good or good. So
Right.
yeah, it wasn't like a tough sell for me at that point, because I just needed to engage with music in some way, period. And that was such a wonderful entry point. And obviously the best thing, because it's one of my best friends, though, that worked great.
Max, like, did you know that? Like, did you kind of just like blindly send him music, or did you feel like this is what needed maybe pick him up a little bit and get him moving?
So I should first say that I would never send all of those beats to any person other than Rich. So like if Rich was any other person, this wouldn't have happened, right? Because sending somebody that much shit that they could just download and take, or like there's stuff that he may have listened to that I think is horrible, but I was just trying to get a read on what he thought about it. Lots of chances that I took over the past 10 years, and I wouldn't trust anybody else with that material other than Rich.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I mean, Rich, you're kind of an album, and so, but you kind of put that on hold, focus on what was happening now, something for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing, Macks, from a very young age, to me at least, has stressed the importance of trying to create timeless music. So, that's also why I felt as confident as I did in terms of like shelving what I was going to put out this year, just because it's like I've listened back recently, and I'd say it's held up almost in its entirety, even though it's been a couple of years for some of those songs. So from my standpoint, it luckily was built in a way where it has shelf life. Obviously, I'll have to do a little bit of some tweaks or something to get it like game ready, but in the meantime, obviously, it also was coming from a completely different world. The world we're in right now, none of us are familiar with it. Not at least our generation. Maybe our grandparents or people, that were older that may have been in the Depression era. But like to live in America and experience this is just not. It's a new thing. So obviously, I wanted to make something that was of that time, and we both really really locked in on that.
Yeah. And I agree that it's because we talked when the Ambassadors record came out right before the quarantine, by the way. Like, you guys came to my house, and so it's like everything that just stopped and changed the landscape of what we're going to do the rest of the year. So it's this phenomenon that no one could have. I mean, I suppose people could have been predicting it, but no one could have at any given moment said like the world's going to stop on March 19th. So it's been just an absolute crazy year. Max, how have you been? Music sort of engulfed your life, and just is that kind of what keeps you moving during this time, and sort of reconnecting because he mentioned sort of in his sort of diary about this record is that it's been 20 years, and you're the one who roped him into the music or the space that we're in. And so what did you kind of feel like in this abnormal, unorthodox, but also natural, organic way that you guys were coming together so out for the best?
Yeah, I mean, since this whole pandemic started, in a weird way, I feel like it's been very liberating for making music, because not only do I have a lot of time, because I don't have not like even half the obligations I once did, but it also gave me some time to experiment. So I'm not like fighting a deadline or trying to make something so specific. And Rich, the nice part about working with him is he's going to also do some of the heavy lifting. And some folks that I work with, they pay me to do all the heavy lifting for them. But it's nice to collaborate with Rich, because I can send him something that I think is, needs a little work or something, and then he comes back, and his response to it is totally something I didn't see coming. And then I'm like, actually, this totally works the way it is. And that happened with, I think, 2 of the beats that I had sent him, that I was like, I don't know about those. Those are just kind of loops. And I need to do a little bit more if we're going to really run with it. And Rich knocked it out of the park and sent it back. And I was like, never mind. You did it.
Yeah. How does it feel for you guys to be working back closely like this on a project?
You go first, Rick.
There you go.
I think it's great. It's kind of cool because we take 5-year breaks between projects, but our friendship maintains throughout, which is really really nice. And even if you go back to this morning, we were texting about the first project we did together, which is Babe Ruthless, and how dated it is. But it's kind of cool to be able to see, like, every 5 years there's a significant evolution in who Rich is as a personality, but also it's also nice to see how consistent he is with his message.
Yeah, no, I'd say if anything, especially now that we can't really be out and about or kind of do much of anything, for me this whole year has been a lot about really thinking about who my family is, and that's been at the core of a lot of my journey and my work, especially like the last 5 or 6 years anyway. But like, I feel like instead of like searching for it, I feel like it's more like it's here, and let's just hunker down and do the damn thing. And I've obviously, I'm a wanderer by nature, so it's not something that I am I'm not always prone to be able to see, I guess, like where I should be setting up where I need to set up. But I'd say as of right now, that this whole process of both not being able to go outside and then also reconnecting with one of my childhood best friends in this capacity, because obviously we've remained like really good friends regardless of whether we're working on music or not. It's really, I think, energized me for next year and like the year after. I don't know, I think in a lot of ways the whole experience has got me more prepared, I think, to release more music with Macks, and also just to share more music generally. And I think also for Macks too, because this all, he sends me all these beats in the first place because I wanted to see what the catalog was looking like from the vault or whatever, because I figured he could release an instrumental album or like some beat tapes or whatever, because I know that people are really, especially now with the whole lo-fi craze or whatever. That's not what I call it. It's instrumental hip hop. But with that being as popular as it is, I know that he has a ton of music that will resonate with people. So that was the whole catalyst, is how can I help him go through this and figure out how we can get some of this stuff out there. But I think that being said, obviously that reconnected us to get us working. But then I was picking beats as well and listing them for other artists, in our friend group, or maybe kind of like slightly outside of our friend group or outside of Max's. Maybe he doesn't know them, but I know them, and I think they'd make a lot of sense together. And so from there, the next thing for Macks, which I'm really excited about, is actually an EP with Gyroscope, are really good friends that we've known for forever. And I'm excited. I mean, like, I know we're here to talk about this album, but I think it has to be highlighted how insane the last 6 months has been for Macks from a release schedule, because he released an incredible instrumental album, Rivals and Departures. He has Us Holding It Down in the middle with How Do You Sleep at Night, and then this next EP with Gyroscope. I mean, it's a really impressive output, and I really hope people recognize that. And just in about a 6-month period, the guys kind of hit it out of the park every time. And so I'm excited to see hopefully more people pay attention to that and get excited. And then obviously, hopefully Macks continues to release dope shit.
I mean, I'll say that, like, with Macks, like, I think this is my first sort of introduction to you. So I'm excited that you have other work that's recent back and like listen to now and follow the trail and go down that rabbit hole. So I'm really
follow the popcorn bits.
Experience,
Hey,
wherever.
Gabe, I think your Wi-Fi is tweaking, brother.
Yeah, I know. Am I back?
I think you're back.
You're back.
Okay, so yeah, it did give me the buffering. I just think that the streaming experience is like the next to best thing of having not having a record store experience, because like you can just go time travel through that rabbit hole, especially if you're new to someone and you just like listen to everything and get that experience. But it's, you know, it's not the same. But I'm glad that I'm learning more about Macks and what he's doing, because now I want to learn more about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, if you followed any like a lot of the SEC records when I was in a group, I mean, he produced about probably 80% of all the songs that we did as a group. And you know, he's worked with the Dutch Master and Vic Spencer, and you know, he's made some really good inroads. Max, I know you're right here. You know, I know you're right here. You look great, but yeah, you know, I think I'm super pumped, especially going into next year, to kind of just see where that goes, and hopefully more people catch on and start giving the man his flowers. I know I send him a dozen every day, and he never says thanks. Just kidding. He always says thanks. I don't ever send a dozen roses, but you know, he says thank you.
Well, I'm appreciative to you, Rich, for basically getting this show on the road, because if it wasn't for you being pretty forceful, if I may say, about starting up on an instrumental album, this, I don't know if this all would have if all these different projects would have happened, because just prior to this, I had been working on another project that I was pretty much done producing, and there was a failure to launch there. So it was nice to get back on the horse and be able to do this.
Yeah. Speaking of just flowers to give out, like Rich, I just think that you're one of the most best MCs that is out there right now. Like your writing, your story and writing is just, it's really excellent. The way you weave and comfortably weave through these records, and the way that like when you are harmonizing and really stretching your capabilities with your voice, it just really stands out to anything. And I think that's the I want to say the selling point, but it just feels the vibe. It just is appropriate to the storyline and also the topics that you're discussing on this record. And I know I know that you're comfortable sort of being, you know, being just Rich, but I just want people to realize just how like amazingly awesome you are as a writer.
Well, thank you very much. It's always much harder to take praise than criticism. You know, you could say you're trash and be like, "Fuck you." So I'll say thank you. That means a lot. You know, it's funny. I feel like a lot of the ethos that Max and I have worked under, whether it's in the last 10 years or recently, I mean, you know, it's I don't know. I feel like we both try to tread pretty heavily in the waters of humility. Obviously it's hip hop and it's all about being the best, and you know, obviously I appreciate what I can do, but yeah, that it's also very nice to hear people hear that they acknowledge where it's at. I'll say, for all the funky weird things that I've made over the last 10 years, it was really really good to come back to make a hip hop record. I missed making hip hop records, and to make an album like this was just, I don't know, it felt very centering. I was seeing a bunch of people kind of earlier in the quarantine talking about how they were going back to certain music or certain, you know, things that kind of were like centering or like grounding elements for them, and like hip hop very much is that for me. You know, I know it's been documented a little bit in some of the interviews we talked about, but I again, I just took such offense, and I still do take offense to when people say, well, I'm more than just a rapper, or like, you know, or you know, especially if it's like a white person who wants to just like essentially culture vulture and just use the culture. It's like, man, doesn't matter if I want to make a pop song, I'm gonna fucking make a pop song. But on the other end of it, I'm not gonna disrespect what came to that, what led to that moment, which is a background in hip hop. I am an MC, and that doesn't change whether it's me, you know, doing something that's more balladic or not. So you know, I feel very comfortable in this moment with where I'm at as an MC. And I'm honestly, as I said, I'm energized point blank. I'm really pumped to kind of dive in. I haven't written shit since we finished the album. That shit took a lot out of me, but trust to anyone who sent me anything, slash hi Max. I'm gonna be kind of checking back in this, once we start I'd say after like the first couple days of like consistently we've got like snow on the ground or it's just really shitty out. I'm probably gonna just be like, all right, let's go. So I appreciate you giving me my roses, and that's motivation to keep making great records, and I'm really excited. And as you can see, I've got a pretty decent home setup. I've got Han Solo. I've got some posters. There's Mothman hanging out in the corner right there, as you can see, right the little wing right there.
Yeah,
hey, Mothman. So I've definitely created a world for myself to do. And I mean, and also on the rare occasion, hopefully we can get this vaccine cracking, because I like look at Max's room. Max has got like an excellent studio room to work out of as well. I always feel very comfortable, and I don't feel like I'm gonna randomly get attacked by like some like toxic creature or some other random thing. He's got the best dog too. I mean, you can't beat a good studio dog.
Yeah.
Did and you kind of like hit on this like earlier this week on the social medias. You were kind of just like, yo, like this is just not a good week. And so like, has this entire period kind of really wore you down spiritually and emotionally? Like the isolation, the what's happening in the world, Rich? Like, it's like what is like what's kind of like your mental space right now? Like, are you just being hopefully optimistic that like you were mentioning, like once the vaccine hits, like things will turn for the better, or are you just kind of mentally preparing that things may be kind of crappy for a while?
I mean, only child status. I can be by myself for as long as I need to be. It doesn't mean I'm happy. It doesn't mean I'm like living my best life. I'm very lucky that I live with my partner and our two cats, and we have a world to live in that is comfortable, and I'm very grateful for that. And that's not something I take for granted whatsoever. So I think like, I'm personally set to probably this is my bomb shelter for as long as I need to, and I'm very lucky for that. But I feel like in terms of being worn down, yeah, I mean shit, we're still in the foothills of maybe what could be like the world's weirdest attempt at a coup ever in this country. So like I'm waiting with bated breath to make sure that at the very least we have a peaceful transfer of power before I like completely like exhale. But like we've got that, we've got a mayor who I mean, she's placing bets on scotch and cigars over a teacher's strike. I mean, it's a shit show from top to bottom in terms of like the people pulling the strings of life. So like these sorts of things wear on me and freak me out. And then throw in personal other things with people I care about and my concern for them and their well being. Yeah, it's a shit time, and I it's been tough, but I'd say even throughout all that, I still have to go super big picture. I've got a brother like Max who I can, spiritually have like wonderful creative moments with. I've got a partner, I've got the cats, I've got you, Gabe, someone who I respect, who gives a shit and wants to talk to us about this. I mean, there's been some really healthy, wonderful things to come out of this, even if I am having a bad day. Like that day in particular was like, wow, it's weird. Like there was like a bunch of bad shit, and there's some shit you can't reverse. You can't change death. So like that's that. But then there was some good news that came out a day or two after that. I was like, okay, like at least these things went like unexpectedly well, even though we had to deal with some sad shit. And so I think it's kind of a day at a time. Like I feel like most people said it's a day at a time in terms of not letting your emotions just get completely run ragged. Because at the end of the day, my friend Eddie said this to me a year or two ago, and I think it's brilliant. And I mean, it's a it's not meant to be as narcissistic as it might sound, but you really have to take care of your star player. You got to take care of yourself. Your star player is you. You don't necessarily you technically have to take care of anyone else but yourself, just from
Right.
like a baseline, like make sure that you're okay. And obviously that you don't want to be a selfish prick, but I think that sort of thing is just you got to be able to live to fight another day, especially if you're in this for other people more than yourself. There has to be a moment where you unplug for a day or two and get your shit together. I mean, I know Max probably has a ton to say on this because he's still going to work. He's out here working.
Oh, so you're physically in the world, Max? Like you go outdoors and
Yeah. I work at a hotel. And since this whole thing started, we took care of doctors and nurses for a while at the hotel, and we had to deal with all the anxiety that comes with housing nurses and doctors that are all working in the COVID ward at the University of Chicago, and wearing an N95 mask for 9 hours a day is not exactly how you want to spend your day. But you know, it's like Rich was saying, you got to kind of count your blessings. It's like, at least I have a job to go to.
Well, yeah, I was thinking that too. Like your industry is one of the ones that was the hardest hit. So I was like, you know, I was in a training and they were like, "What are you most thankful for?" I'm like, employment. It's like job security.
Number one.
And that, you know, like I have somewhere to call home, you know, and that my kids and my wife are safe, you know, like it's things that we definitely took for granted 8-9 months ago that we never could have forecasted that it would have it's getting this bad. So but anywho, so you're Rich, I know you said you're really excited about looking forward to the end of the year and next year, and this may be sort of a Kickstarter for a lot of work to get done. What about the record that you said that you stopped to make this one? Is that going to get done, or is that kind of pushed to the side because it has a special meaning to it?
Oh, I mean, that's definitely happening. If the whole one key thing I know that we haven't touched on is, you know, this album, How Do You Sleep at Night, is only available on Bandcamp because we don't need to be splitting money with anyone who really doesn't give a shit about us. And, you know, obviously, you know, you pay the fees, you pay for that. Everyone, you know, you got to pay somebody to do this. But at the end of the day, that sort of relationship and that sort of cut is way more agreeable to us because if anything, it really puts, you know, it puts it out there where it's like, hey, if you rock with us, support it. And, you know, obviously throw in that whereas people may have typically purchased a ticket to a show option right now. So, you know, I guess it's I think in my case, especially because my career has been so driven by live events and by playing out, I haven't necessarily historically sold a lot of my music or like generated a ton of money off of streaming or otherwise. So it's really, you know, can I play out and get a guarantee or like, you know, work off the door and hustle it? And that's great. And that's been really fun. But I think because of everything closing down, it's been necessary to reframe what I want and what I should expect from my work or for whatever I'm working on. And so I think this whole experience with Macks has been great because all of our friends have really shown out and a bunch of people we don't know have shown out. And it's just more reinforced that you really can do it on your own. You don't need anything. I mean, and it's also, you know, you set a price for your product. You're setting, in my mind, you know, it's streaming removes the concept of a unit of like, you know, like this is $10 or this is $12 for this one thing. So when that gets taken out of the equation, for me at least, from maybe I'm just old, but I don't know, man. I don't see, oh, if I hit 1 million streams, I have to hit 1 million streams because this will equal this payout. That isn't even guaranteed. I saw someone with a $3.6 million $3.6 million play count, and their payout for the fucking year was $300. How the fuck does that work? How does that happen? So I mean, this is someone who tours a lot and like sells shit tons of merch. So I'm sure that they're, you know, on the back end, people are paying into it. But it's just like, why would we involve ourselves in that system when we know that we can just put it to our people and they'll support us? And I mean, this was a gamble. I mean, this is me thinking, you know I can get people to show up for me in these capacities, like in the real world. Can we get them to take me home or take us home with them like this? And so far, the answer has been very much yes. Yeah. And I think it's also understanding what your goals should be for it. You know, obviously, I think my initial goal is like maybe 100 people will buy it, and that's, I think, a really good starting point. And we smashed that. And so now, you know, then you kind of readjust. It's like, okay, let's try to amp this up a little bit. Like, what's the monthly, you know, kind of goal we may have, or like what are our expectations, and kind of goes from there. So to bring this back to your initial question about these other projects, that project in particular, I would like to have everywhere just because it's got some very big records on it. But in the meantime, whatever it takes to get to that point, I know next year there's going to be a bunch of music that you can get from me, whether it's with Macks or with whoever else I've got stuff collaboratively set up with, and you can support that directly. And so I know that with everything I have in mind with that sort of play, I know that that's going to eventually make it possible for the album that I was going to put out this year, I think, to not only resonate with a larger fan base of people who are already checking for me because of this, because I mean, to kind of I don't want to use the word relevant because there's also people that are relevant to a conversation who don't necessarily drop music. It's just it's a different context where it's like, is it part of the culture? Or is it part of numbers? And so I feel like at this point I've been more on the cultural side, but realizing like what numbers I need to hit for this to make not sense, but for me to, I guess, feel like a certain level of, okay, like I did my job to the degree that I needed to, or that we did what we had to do. So yeah, I think if anything, my confidence in what we can accomplish has only been like greatly heightened. And yeah, I'm super pumped. So I know that album, when it comes out, it's going to be fucking great, but it may be a while because we got more shit to make. And we got a bunch of stuff in the fall. I mean, Max and I had, before this even happened, we had like 10 or 15 songs just chilling. We didn't use any of them. Because that wasn't the point. We didn't want to use any of them.
Well,
but
we thought about it at one point.
We thought about it.
And then like the first 3 songs were better than we expected. And we were like, oh, okay, maybe we should just keep doing this until it breaks.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know, Rich, like I saw you, I think it was during the summer, you were doing like remote, not remote, but like, what is it, like portable, like live, like you were performing in the back of a truck in Logan Square, and you're trying to like, at least spread, like get some live music out to people in a safe way. So I know that with your spirit and your ingenuity, like you'll figure out a way to still reach the people in the space. So I'm not too overly concerned about if you'll make it or not, because I think you will. But to your point about the whole streaming thing, that it's absolutely nuts. And being an independent artist, I tell people all the time, like, I don't know how you guys do it. Just with the level of obstacles and hurdles that are just thrown at you guys in so many capacities, it makes it almost not even fun to do because the business aspect is just so screwed up. But I appreciate you guys putting the price tag that you do on this album, because like you were mentioning, like there's a value aspect to it that that needs to be respected and that a stream can't give you. And I like what you were mentioning, like this record is just too important to just be sort of just chopped up and thrown into a playlist, and you're only getting one or a snippet of the record and you don't listen to the album. So I think I respect you guys for how you guys are approaching this and how you guys are distributing it.
Can I just add something? So I think it's important to note that I think the reason we created a value like proposition was, sometimes when you're making music, it's kind of like a newspaper, right? It's current, it's today, it's meaningful, it informs, but tomorrow it's old, right? And then in some cases you're writing a book or you're writing a novel or whatever it may be. And in those cases, it's like when Rich says he's going to put some stuff on streaming, I think that some of that stuff, and you can tell me if I'm absolutely off base, Rich, some of that's kind of newspaper stuff. It's important to read, to stay informed. It's contemporary, and we want people to listen to it. But we also, if we write a book, we want to charge money for it so that it's taken more seriously. And I think that Rich had the idea to kind of go with just the Bandcamp route this time, and I wasn't 100% sure if it was going to be as successful as it ended up, quite honestly. So, Rich, once again, you're right, and I hate saying that.
I know you hate saying that.
I hate it.
I appreciate it. Just know, yeah. No, I think that's a good way of looking at it. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's a whole treasure trove of Spotify and Apple playlisters that'll come out the woodworks being like, what do you mean it's not a newspaper? This is my life, and for those music listeners, man, I got a great app for you. It's called Bandcamp. You can build whole music catalogs on your iTunes just with Bandcamp. You can pay people. But no, jokes aside, no, it's no, I think that's a really healthy way to look at it. I think too, yeah, really, 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 really just asking people to sit with something like I had a friend today say that, like, it's kind of a bummer because I use Spotify mainly, and so this doesn't get into my rotation enough. And I said, well, I mean, good, because I don't want it to just randomly come on. I want you to choose this. I don't want you to just be like, oh yeah, I love groceries. This is my jam. I mean, it's great if it comes on and you say that, but like if it was just to come on like Starbucks waiting in line playlist style, that would be fucking weird, especially considering, you know, like what the meaning of the album is. I mean, we're not just out here to whore ourselves to capitalism. You know, it's you know, it's not meant to just be some kind of like easy thing. No, this is something that's like, you know, we've done a good job of making what we've done very listenable. It's your job to just sit down and listen to it, and if you like it, awesome. If you don't like it, as cool. There's a million other things out there. Like I hope you find what you're looking for. But yeah, I would say for those this resonates with even a little bit, you know, we've definitely, I think, have, I guess, I don't even want to call it unfair expectations, because like Kanye will say like, you know, I needed to jump how high, and people will jump how high to you know, get a shoe or something, and it's like, you know, for us, I feel like, you know, we're not asking for much. It's just your time, and you know, and if you rock with it, you know, engage with it and appreciate it, and maybe tell some other people, because we are capital I independent, baby. There are no got no strings on me. You know.
Well, the new album, How Do You Sleep at Night, it's available on Bandcamp. We'll put the link up on our social medias at Weekend Gabe. Please go out there, support it. It is an incredible record for this time that we're living in right now, and it's also a great end of the year record that I hope that people will give the time to. Rich, Max, I thank you guys so much. Yeah, Rich, go ahead.
I just want to say one last thing.
Yep.
I want to give a big shout out to every single artist that we had featured on the album. So if you're looking for some of the best MCs or artists that are either from Chicago or living in Chicago or were in Chicago, I would say go check out Michael DeVille, go check out Black, go check out Davis the Dorchester Bully, go check out AM Early Morning, go check out Matt Muse, go check out Def C, go check out Sketch 185, Psalm 1, Javon Landry, whatever this bearded guy's name is right here with the cute smile. You know, just go support it, because that's the other thing too, is, you know, as much as this was about us getting back in tune, it's also about our friends and our community, and these were people from a wide swath of eras. You know, Psalm 1's the first show I went to in 2003, and so to have her on a record, you know, almost over 15 years later, that's a big deal for us, because we grew up on that music. But then to also have people from the current era in the mix as well. I mean, you know, this is meant to be something that threads it all together and connects us and binds. So, you know, for any of those, you know, that enjoy this album, please go and check out all the dope art that all those people are making, because I guarantee you're gonna fuck with it. Because if we didn't fuck with it, they wouldn't have been on the album. Trust.
Exactly. Yeah, we have Def C was our third guest on the show, so I love Def C. So shout out to Adam. All right, but we gotta let you guys go. We got Cam B in on deck, but thank you guys, Rich Jones, Montana Macks. How Do You Sleep at Night? It's the new album. Go out there, put it into your life. It's the right thing to do. Enjoy the rest of your guys' year. Hopefully, we'll check in soon with you guys, and let me know if you guys are up to anything.
Sounds good,
man. Be good.
Thank you, Gabe.
Say what up to Cam. Give him a big e hug for me.
He's nodding. He says yes. All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Be easy.
All right, Rich, Montana Macks joining us here on Weekend at Gabe's. Don't forget to give us a follow on the social medias at Weekend Gabe's. All right, joining us now. He's been patiently waiting. We appreciate his time. Good evening, sir. Man. It's none other than the great Cam B joining us here on Weekend at Gabe's. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm great, man. I love talking to Rich. He's such a unique character in this hip hop world. And his storytelling is second to none, and he just has a great way of the way he works and the way he puts his records together that are really fascinating, enamoring. They're entertaining. They're likable. So he just checks off all the boxes. So I really enjoy having him on. But we also enjoy having you on. I think the first time I talked to you it was over the radio, so I didn't get a chance to actually see you. So this
that was interaction. That was some years ago too. That was like, I can't remember what year that was. That was some years ago.
It was you were doing. I think it was right when you started doing some work with Jamila, and
right around I think it was before that though, because I think you did something with Ad 2. You interviewed me with Ad 2.
I think so. I don't know. It's been like you're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I remember you talking to me about Add To. I remember that part.
I mean, because you guys are all connected, like Unique, Slot. You guys are all in the same universe, and I love every one of you guys because you guys are all uniquely talented, and you all have a passion for what you do, and different. It's like you guys are in. I don't want to just sort of broadly use the term entertainment, but you guys are in different focuses and different practices, but you guys are all fantastic at what you do. And like Ad's a fantastic writer, mentor. He does all this really great work. Neek, who we talked to last week, self-taught himself how to do all this stuff like with production on top of being an amazing writer and all the work he's doing with his education. And then Slot, who's a fantastic producer. And I've told him this, Cam, that he's a great rapper who needs to rap more.
He should rap more.
He should.
Yeah. The times I've enjoyed Slot when he has got on the mic. So
he's fantastic. And we talked about this on show number 1. And he just like he's waiting for like the moment that like really inspires him to do it. So I respect that, but I think that he's like an underrated like MC that dual threat of being a producer and an MC. Like
I feel like if he did like an alter ego or something, that would
that's a great idea.
That'd be fine.
I mean, he could just be Slotty Divock, aka Slot A. That would be his Bobby Digital to the RZA.
Yeah. See, we didn't talk to him about this now.
I've talked to him. He doesn't listen.
Okay. Well, I'll follow up. All
right, sounds good. Well, we're here to talk to you about your new record. It's absolutely fantastic. Summer in September. First off, September, that's my birth month, so you already got me there. 81. So September 22nd, 81.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes you like a Libra? Are you
No, I slipped right under the wire of Virgo. So
you're still a Virgo, okay.
Yeah. So my birthday is actually the first, or I think it's the day before the first day of autumn. So it's like
there you go. So it's summer in September still. It's just
I love fall weather. So it's like that. I love the weather. I love just something about the end of the year winding down. Things slow down a little bit. So, but this record doesn't slow down. This record actually, you guys playfully do the WFUNK funk. There's a lot of energy. The live instrumentation just really just sounds off and gives it that authentic, genuine feel, which is a lot different than me listening to a lot of hip hop records where everything's kind of just through machines. But this has that live sound that you just can't. You can kind of mimic it, but you know it when you hear it. And so it's just that energy is a lot different, and it's just such an enjoyable listen to. Just the waves of high intense, but then also just slowing down and mellowing out, and just letting the music speak to you, then adding a vocal over it. So there's a lot to nitpick from. So it's just a fantastic effort.
Thank you. I'm glad that just hearing it. I've been hearing some really good feedback from a lot of people, so to hear yours, it's encouraging. I've just been working on the music, in the studio, COVID. I ain't really doing nothing but working on music, working on some film stuff. So it's nice to have it out, and start to hear like what people are feeling about it, what's it doing to people. Because I mean, that's really inspiration, just to kind of share and inspire.
Yeah. I mean, was the record created after the quarantine, or did you kind of already go into the beginning of the year like, I want to put together an album and explore these sounds? Or like
I was working on music. I had tracks. I worked on a lot of songs, but I think the bulk of what I put out for this album was made during quarantine.
Yeah.
So a lot of the writing, a lot of the lyrics and stuff was made during quarantine. Some of the tracks were made before, but I kind of just record a bunch of different ideas, and then just kind of build off of it. So I could have like 50 or 60 tracks just kind of laying around, and just maybe I'll go back and listen to it and write to it later.
Yeah. So, but you're a practicing musician. Run them off to me. I know it's bass.
I play the bass and the guitar. And I played some of it on the album, and then I had other musicians come and kind of play or replay some of my ideas or different things that I came up with.
Yeah.
So on my last time, I definitely played way more instruments than I played on this one. But I wanted to get, like you said, just that more live feel, just kind of in communal, like it's like a big party, almost like a barbecue or something, or, you know, like just get that vibe. So I wanted to incorporate, you know, other artists, and you know, Chicago is just great for that. You know, like there's so many amazing artists to just like tap into. So I that's what I did.
And you just have such a connection to the Chicago hip hop scene.
Yeah.
I mean, first through the directing and the visual aspect, and bringing a lot of artists into a visual space where we got to see them outside of just being on the blog sites with music, because you were coming through that blog era, giving a lot of these artists a visual platform. So, I mean, I know that your networking and your Rolodex has to run deep with the people you know that you could just call in like, yo, I need help on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the cool things about that blog era, and being able to be like, you know, a videographer of that time that was kind of popping. So it definitely opened a lot of doors for me in general, just in terms of film, photography, music, everything, you know. And then I was able to meet a lot of people, make a lot of strong connections that have lasted over the years. And it's just kind of just, it's been fun building off of that, and then like moving into a different direction now. And I'm still working on like different levels of film, but you know, like not like smaller videos anymore. And then, you know, doing music and doing more photography.
I mean, yeah, you're Emmy nominated. You did the work with Jamila, with Rap City, Layla Wisdom, the documentary covering the making of their record, and all the additional work that you do, you know, whenever you're still doing music videos and capturing music. And then now you're in this space, which isn't new because you had the record out 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this isn't a new thing for you, but it just feels like there's nothing that you can't do and do well. And so I'm very jealous of your talent and your ability. But what is it like? How do you kind of keep all these different passions organized and prioritized? Because you can be pulled into so many different directions for what people know you for, but still staying driven on what you want yourself to do. How do you know, keep that in organized and in place?
The prioritizing, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Especially with the music. Because at one point I was just like recording. I wasn't really doing nothing else. And it was cool. I made the album, of course, but at some point I had to like stop myself, you know, like, all right, you got enough. Like whatever you have here, you just mix, work with, you know, like don't make no more music right now.
Yeah.
So that was difficult to do. But in terms of like kind of the flow of it's like almost like speaking different languages, basically. You know what I mean? Like working in film, working in photography, working in music. You know, once you know the language, it's kind of easy to kind of just work in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I mean, you're rapping on this, so your vocals are on this, and then you're also doing the production side of it. So your hands and your voice are all over this this project, which is fantastic. So, do you lean on like feedback from your inner circle of those other musicians who are? Because I mean, with this record, I wouldn't suggest that I know it's like cataloged under hip hop and R&B when you look it up, but it doesn't really. It kind of feels like it's a fusion of a lot of different sounds, and we're talking about that funk sound that, and then there's a lot of soul, just kind of like I would say bluesy jazz, but it's that somber jazz that just kind of like just weighs you down a little bit, but to bring you off that high. So it doesn't feel like a hip hop record, but it just has a lot of fused in elements into it. So so is that what you were shooting for when you started, or that kind of organically happened?
Definitely. I think this whole project, and even as I start rolling out visuals and stuff, is really just about like celebration of like Black music, like Black American music, like the celebration of blues, of funk, of soul, you know, jazz, hip hop, like merging those ideas, because those are all things that I love and enjoy and I listen to, you know, regularly. But it's like, I feel like we gotten a little bit away from, you know, those kind of sounds, those kind of vibrations. So it was just, for me, it was just like, instead of complaining about it, you know, it was just more like, yo, let me just make something. Let me try to like put my little, you know, 2 cents in of like what this music is and what I want to do and what I want to kind of like hope that we can kind of, you know, work towards. So in my head, I'm like, you know, whoever listens to this, you know, I do have a lot of artist friends and so on and so forth. So I feel like, people may get inspired by the music, may take something from it, like, oh, I could pull this and do this on my next record. So that was kind of like the goal too, introduce those sounds back again.
The record, there's a lot of social commentary that's built into the record. And I think it's on Fade Away at the opening record. And I'm paraphrasing, so I don't have the exact quote or line, but it's like, you can't kill black men, or black men don't die.
Yeah.
And that was such an interesting thing to hear, considering of all the deaths that have happened to black men this year. But it also acknowledges the strength that black men have to want to live and are fighting against injustices and those practices to continue to live. So it had like a very a connected moment in time, but also there's such a richness in that record.
Yeah. I mean, add too, he talked on the beginning of that part of that song, and so like he kind of said what he had to say, but I really feel like that was like you said, it was a key point. It's kind of a theme throughout the album, because I'm writing this stuff as we're going through this, you know what I mean? As we're going through COVID, as we're going through all of it. So like that's the lyrics that were kind of coming out at the time. Things that are happening during the protests, all those things. So I really wanted to put it out this year, and it was like December, but I'm like, you know what? Like I still wanted to drop in 2020. I just felt like it needed to like be placed in this time.
Yeah, I love listening to like records like yours and Rich, who we had on, and like these records that don't fill sort of a pop hip hop quota of like regurgitated sounds and drums that you hear over and over, and there's no shade to those people that make those records, because some of them are really good. But it's just having that diverse sound that's offered. It becomes super more limited, or often more difficult to find because of just the white noise that's happening. So I'm appreciative that you did pull it, like drop it this year, or at least now, because who knows what next year may look like, and the vibe may not be the same.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was timely, and then well, you had said something. Now I forgot what because you said something else. I was like, okay. I forgot. We could just move on. But you said something that was just about the sound. Like, everybody kind of sounds the same. I think that for me, that's one of the reasons in doing music. If I'm going to do it, I didn't want to have sound like somebody else, because, what's the point for me? Like, what's the point of doing it, right? So, like, it had to be my own, like, sound, my own wave of what I was trying to do to make the music, to like put the effort into like put the record out, because it takes time, it takes some energy, it takes some emotion. So
Did you approach this record differently than you did with 7 Steps to 7? Like, did you kind of learn from that process and were able to build on it?
Both. I definitely learned, because like that 7 Steps to 7 was my first solo record. I had put out some other music, collaborative music, and music with my group before. So each album was kind of a learning process, but the things had changed. Like the blog era was kind of done by the time I put out my album, and all those things were done. But I was used to that from, doing videos and stuff. So like the approach of like, okay, how am I going to release this, and so on and so forth. I learned a lot from that process. And then with the recording process, I didn't limit myself at all in this one. I think 7 Steps to 7, I only had about 10 songs, and I kind of narrowed it down to 8. But with this, I had like 80 or 90 songs. Like I was just recording. So I didn't stop myself from writing anything. I just freestyled stuff and then kind of fixed stuff later. I was just kind of just letting it flow. Yeah. And I think you can kind of feel that, like it's just, I feel a little more loose than my previous album.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely, for sure. I'm interested to know, because when people see, because the work that you do visually and the videos that you've shot, they always have a crispness. There's a professionalism to them. They look not like someone shot it on their Android phone. Like there's actually a quality effort made in this, and I'm not taking it away from anyone using the resources that are available.
Yeah,
that I'm not discouraging you from doing that. However, you will notice a quality difference. And but has anyone like ever like seen what you were doing either like back then or recently, and then you they approached you, but you just weren't feeling what they were doing, so you passed on it?
Yeah, I mean that's happened, especially as I moved on in my career. You know, like if I'm doing a music video now, it's got to be like for a friend, like it's got to be kind of a favor. Like I'm doing it, but I'm doing it because I want your thing to shine. Because it's just the time, you know what I mean? Like I want to do other things. I'm working on a feature-length documentary right now. I've been writing some scripts. I've been working in that realm as well and producing. And then now I'm producing music, and I want to actually get more into that, like doing soundtracks, doing other types of music. I think doing instrumentals and those kind of things is something I'm really intrigued in doing. Some instrumental projects. So I just, so even just, as an artist too, you get bored doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Like I've already done that. I've already been in this space. It was cool. It was great. It was an amazing time. And it's like, all right, I've grown now. And so I'm just excited for like what's next, what's happening now. And so sometimes I turn down people I don't necessarily want to because they're cool or whatever, and I like the project, but it's not worth it to me to do at the same time, and I don't mean any shade to nobody. It's just, like you got to make decisions. You have to learn how to say no. That's that's a big thing. So,
yeah, I was just in a mental health training today, and that's exactly what one of the things was like. It's okay to say no, like secure your mental health if you have to, and say no.
Yeah,
that's a good tip for everyone who's listening. So this documentary, what is can you share the subject?
Oh yeah. It's called Project Building Hope. It's about two women, Priya and Nina. Priya is the founder of Simple Good. Nina, she founded an organization called Heart of 1,000 Hills. They went to Rwanda, built a school, and came in the mural and did a cross-cultural exchange with students from Chicago and Rwanda. But the story really is about their journeys, their personal journeys through trauma. Nina was a genocide survivor from Rwanda. And so, they both have dealt with a lot of trauma in their own lives. And they came together to do this project. So that's what the film's about. But it just shows, like their life, their story, the challenges in doing this project, and like the outcome.
Yeah. Did you travel to Rwanda at all?
Oh yeah. I was for this project went to Rwanda 4 times.
What was that experience like?
I had been to Africa before. I had been to that part of Africa too because I went to Uganda before, which is a neighboring country. But it was quite the experience. I love Rwanda. I love Kigali. It's a really nice, orderly, clean city. It's it's very quaint there. The genocide happened in the 90s, and so things have kind of changed since then. It's kind of a growing place. Doing the project with the school was amazing. It's an amazing part of my life that I got to experience, like building a school.
Sure.
Like it's kind of still like surreal when you think about it. Even as I'm like editing this film. I kind of, kind of remove yourself a little bit from you're actually there doing it. But sometimes it kind of clicks on you that actually happened. So, that was all great. I love Africa, East Africa. I spent a lot of time in because of the project with Rwanda. I do hope to go back when the film's done, and hopefully all this craziness is somewhat, changed and moved or wherever we're at.
Yeah.
I think the film's going to be a really great project. It's been backed by Cartemplin Films here in Chicago. So we just kind of edited in, and we actually had a preview screening last night for the film. Yeah.
So it's nearing completion. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good news.
Yeah. So now, I got the album done. Now the next one is the film. So.
There you go. Always got goals in front of you. I like it.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, because you kind of keep mentioning when this thing is over, when we're back to normal, travel back. What is one thing that you haven't done that you can't wait to do?
Travel out of the country. I would love to just kind of go somewhere amazing and just be gone for a while.
I suppose you could still do it. I just don't know how.
Yeah. Right now you can. I've actually been kind of plotting, but yeah.
I've had family members travel down to Puerto Rico, and they came back, and they fortunately they avoided the germ. So it's possible. I just don't know what it depends on how much you want to gamble with your health.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you can get tested. There's some places, you have to get tested to go and all that stuff. So.
Oh yeah, Puerto Rico is one of those places. They play 0 games with that.
Hey, I mean, good. It's good, right? People know.
There was just a video of someone it was American down there, and they told him to put his mask on, and he wasn't listening, and then they had to get hands on him.
Really?
We're not doing that. Like this is not the American shores. We're not playing those games. So all right, well that's a good place. That's a good thing to want to do. I can't wait to start traveling. Hopefully next spring or summer. We'll see what happens. But Can Be the new album is out there right now. Please go find it on all streaming platforms. It is Summer in September. It's a fantastic listen to. It's right in that great wheelhouse of about 30 minutes. There's a lot to unpack, so it doesn't feel too long or too short. It's just that right space. So I tip my hat to you for knowing when to stop.
Thank you. I pulled the song actually at the last minute. I was like, yo, we gotta take one of the songs off. So we'll put that out another time. So.
35 minutes, I think. Sadly, that's where we're at.
Yeah, it is.
However, I mentioned this last week or earlier this week that Busta Rhymes ELE2 album, which runs about an hour 20.
Back to the 90s, double CD.
I was like, this is a really long listen to, but thank God it's enjoyable. But there's no way in hell I'm sitting through another hour 20. I'm picking out my favorite records, and that's what's
yeah. So no, I mean, I think that's 30 minutes. But then people don't want it too short either. If you do it too short, they're like, yeah.
I don't like the 18-minute EPs or whatever. Like those things are whatever people want to. I don't like the 18-minute thing. I like 30 minutes. It feels like you can get your point across, and you can either cut yourself off before it gets out of control, or you can leave me wanting for more. So I prefer you wanting me for more than to go too far then turn me off. So
So I'm glad. I hope that left you wanting for more. So.
Absolutely, we definitely want. Please don't make a sequel. Just make another album.
Yeah, we should make another album.
Well, you have about 80 more records to go through. So
yeah. I have some things, man. So we're gonna do some cool stuff soon. So.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Cam. I appreciate you joining us here on Weekend at Gabe's to talk about the new record and what you're up to. We can't wait for the documentary to drop. So when it does come out, we'll love to have you come back and talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, man. Thanks for always having me. It's always a pleasure, bro.
All right, we appreciate your patience tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening, your weekend, and the rest of your holiday, all right?
Yeah, you too, man. All right, guys.
Can Be here on Weekend at Gabe's. That's going to be our time. Don't forget to follow us on the social medias, and also go check us out on Apple and Spotify podcast, where we are recording these shows and putting them up, the audio version. You guys can check it out. And then also on YouTube, where the full shows are being recorded as well. So you can find a recap of the show wherever you find an internet connection. We're everywhere. All right, we'll be back at it next week. We're looking at Lizzie G is going to be joining us on Tuesday, entrepreneur, hustler, rapper, and then we're trying to lock in another guest for Tuesday night next week. So please keep following us on the social medias at Weekend Gabe for guest updates and information about the show. And we'll do it again. Please have a great weekend, a safe weekend, and see you next Tuesday right here on Weekend at Gabe's.